But wait, hold on a sec. Okay, so the reason I was having a problem yesterday is because the camera being here, I had it flipped this way, right? Yeah, I'm gonna totally fuck with your heads. Um, Stop. I don't care about live chat. Go away, box. Go away, box. I don't want to learn. I want you to disappear. See, this is why I hate shit like this. Stop it. Stop asking me to learn more about live chat. I don't give a fuck. So anyway, down here is where my camera currently is, right? I look at you over here. If I look up here, it's not looking at it. But over here, and I'm gonna use my fingers to help create this sense. Right here is where the X is. But yesterday it was flipped like this, right? Now the camera is up here because if I look up here and then I look away and I look down here, it's not over there. But the X is also in the same spot. And it's like blocked by the actual camera hole because there's no sense to touch there. So there's like a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of the X. So it's like trying to kill those really annoying ads. And so your fingers just like, yeah, never mind. Cooking some hot dogs. I've already had a salad. Yesterday was, oh, it was a thing. So you know how, like I said, the worst case scenario was like, would get it or whatever. No, the worst case scenario is what happened, or at least one of the potential worst case scenarios. So, like I said, this person wanted me to provide, like ID and proof of income. The reason that should have been a red flag, and it was, I mean, it wasn't massive in my head, is because either they were trying to scam my ass, or they might be doing something that's potentially fraudulent, illegal, or simply just kind of against the terms of service. I don't know. But they were like a super host, they had a ton of reviews, and so, like, obviously those things don't necessarily matter sometimes. Um, you know, so they asked me this info. Hold on a sec. I gotta get out those. Let them see. And here's what they look like when they're cooked. So what I do is poke holes in them, of course, so they don't explode the skins and stuff. Wrap them, and then I cook them for 4.5 minutes on 50% power because then and to those who don't know, 50% power doesn't mean that it's not as powerful because microwaves are binary in that regard. They turn on and off after a specific amount of time. And your power is effectively how often it turns off in a given time. So let's just say, for simplicity, because the power levels go from 1 to 10, and whatever the power level is how long it's on, percentage-wise. So if it goes from 1 to 10 and you set it to 5, it's on 50% of the time. But it has to be on a specific amount of time, and the thing that's on is the thing that creates the microwaves, and it's called a magnetron. Yes, it's the actual fucking name. It's so cool. I love it. Like, if you have a microwave in your house, you have something called a magnetron in your house. That's so badass sounding. Now I'm cooking the buns for a brief amount of time. Hold on. Setting to 5 power, 33 seconds. So if you have it set for 5, it's on 50% of the time. But again, it can't just cycle on and off, on and off, on and off, because like it kind of already does that anyway. That's what waves are. That's why you have the crests and everything. And so the engineers had to figure out how long to do that. Now that could be a standardized thing. I don't really know. But I would say that whenever you hear it whenever you hear it change, that's when you're hearing that difference. And I'm gonna say a better microwave will have an interval that's like 10 seconds on, 10 seconds off kind of thing. Because it also depends on the total time. The total time really does matter. The reason why I heat up these buns for as long as I do is because if I do it for too long, and I mean this is kind of the whole point of how long you should keep things on or off. There's the fork. And I'll reuse these, I mean, another disposable, but I'll reuse them because I like to minimize my trash whenever I can. I didn't pull that hot sauce, but today, oh shit. I was gonna put the cheese under them. Now I gotta take them off and put the cheese under them. It's raining right now too. So the magnetron has to turn on and off for a period of time. What that period of time is, I don't really know. But like, if you wanted to cook tortillas, right? You can't cook them too long. If you wanted to, like, if you got store-bought tortillas, you know, from Mission or whatever, and you decided that you wanted to heat them up in the microwave, how long are you gonna heat them up? Is it gonna be 5 minutes? Hell no. They're too thin. They don't have enough, just anything. They don't have enough mass. They don't have enough masher for that to be practical. This time I'm going to use my tikhat masala. I don't have a lot. I mean, this is actually quite full, so I'm going to have to figure out how to wait. Mustard first. This will be the last of the angry or the drunken jerk. Get close to the end of my mustard. It's all about prep. I mean, I'm not great at time management, but I tend to be better at resource management. Probably because I've been poor and homeless, and you have to do that shit. And then when you have limited resources, financially speaking, you're going to have to learn how to do that anyway as well. So, just going to dump it on her. All right, that's done. It's a little bit more than usual, but it's fine. Tikka masala is interesting. I've never had actual tikka masala, like I mentioned in one of my videos. I think it's number 12, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a lockpicking lawyer. I don't know exactly what content is in my videos. Now, granted, his content is extremely well curated, well directed, well produced. And if he's an actual lawyer, I get it. Tangy. Also, you know, I have a bunch of actual, like, really hot sauces. I don't have any milk or soda or anything. It's all just water now. With regards to what I'm drinking, at least for now. But yeah, so the magnetron needs to turn on for a specific amount of time, just like you want certain things to be on for a specific amount of time for certain things. Now, like for instance, if you wanted to cook eggs, you can cook eggs in a microwave. But you also need to understand you can't just cook eggs however you want. You have to cook eggs based on the tool you're using. So, are you going to get a French style omelet? No. You are not ever getting a French style omelet in a microwave. It ain't going to let you do it. Now, maybe sometime in the future it's possible. I don't know. But the likelihood is so incredibly low, I'm going to say it's impossible. And the reason why is because how you have to cook a French style omelet. First of all, you got to scramble it up. Then you have to heat it on relatively low heat. It can't be super hot, but it can be super hot if you feel like it too. That's the funny thing about eggs and about omelets and about French style omelets. A French style omelet is, to an American, for all intents and purposes, an undercooked omelet. So what you do is you break you scramble the crap out of it, and then when you dump it onto your skillet, you spread it out as much as possible, and you continually agitate it, so that as it's cooking, you're breaking up anything that's actually starting to set, because that's where you get your curds. An American style omelet is going to have larger curds, so like it's the big and the floppy and the chunky, right? And it's going to be largely either cooked through or a little overcooked, depending on, all number of factors. Like if you went and got like scrambled eggs at a Waffle House, you're probably going to get overcooked eggs. That's not to say that Waffle House is bad. It's just that that's kind of what you're going to end up with most likely. Get some water. It's funny, after I did my video yesterday, I ended up taking a nap for like 2 hours. Threw my whole day off. But I still went, dropped stuff off at storage, I think, right? See, I don't even know what day it is. I think it's Wednesday. And somebody made a post on Imgur, because on Wednesdays, they post images of Christina Ricci, because she put Wednesday in the Addams Family movies. But they had posted like this 100 some plus image gallery of her. And it threw me off, especially because I think it was one of the first things I saw after I woke up. So it's like, what the hell? What day is it? Fuck. So anyway, kind of going back to the whole Airbnb thing. So the person wants me to send my ID and form of funds, which again should be a red flag for Airbnb. There's no need to do that stuff. Now, granted, I probably have no reviews. I don't know. This is literally like my foray into Airbnb. But that's already at least a yellow flag. So when I did send my info, the only things, so like I took a screenshot because they wanted me to upload something, and I'm like, I can't even fucking upload anything. Then they wanted me to send it to them via Gmail, and I'm like, I'm not going to communicate outside of Gmail. I almost did though. I'm not going to communicate outside of Airbnb. And then I was like, wait, what the hell am I doing? Because I even downloaded a plugin so you can edit PDFs. Like, who the fuck needs to do that? So what I did was I took a screenshot of my Fidelity mutual funds numbers. I then redacted the identifying account information. And, they're nice and bright red. I'm not going to try to be subtle about this shit. It's like, no, this is an edited document on purpose. And then whenever I save an edited photo, I always save it as a new image. So instead of save, it's save as. And then I made it a PDF. Or not a PDF, a PNG. Which are better for like texts and stuff. When there's a lot of detail in something, or there's a lot of JPEGs are for quick and easy shit, where you don't really have to worry about like accuracy or anything. And sometimes it can also have like artifacting and stuff that can actually kind of make the image a little bit more artistic in its own way. It's also if you want to upload something that's about as accurate as you want, but you're trying to hold on to the real thing. So, like, if you're going to upload anything to Instagram, for instance, upload a JPEG. Don't give them the highest quality stuff because then they can turn around and say it's theirs. Um, so there's a little factoid about image editing if you need to do that. And so I use a free program called Paint.net. It's not the best, but it gets the job done. And it has various plugins and stuff. And so I was thinking like I would just download the PDF, use the PDF plugins so that I could edit and paint. Fuck it. I just instead decided, well, let's go ahead and just take a screenshot of the relevant information. I did that. I took the screenshot. I cropped what needed to be cropped out just so I have like the basic information. And then I used a vibrant red block to cover up the identifying account information. And then I took a photo of my ID, of my passport ID, and I blocked out all the main like numbers and stuff like that. The only information that's on the ID is that I am from Texas because it's a passport ID and it tells you where your origin is from. My name and my birth date. It doesn't even tell you what your hometown is, for instance, because I know that like security questions will ask you that. By the way, don't give. Okay, another piece of information. When it asks you those questions, give them another answer. Give it an answer that doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't pertain to it. I mean, what's your hometown? I don't know. Olive oil. Who cares what the answer is? As long as you know what the answer is, it doesn't matter. If it's a question that somebody else in your life could guess, don't use that answer. What is your cat's name? Sherwood of Nottingham. I don't give a fuck. Which I believe wouldn't make sense anyway. Because Sherwood is, I believe, a place, and Nottingham is yet another place. So whatever. But who cares? That's the thing. Passwords, secret questions, they should be easy for you. One of my favorite things is an XKCD comic, and it talks about password strength. And like all of these requirements that are necessary for passwords make it harder for humans to remember, but easier for systems and especially brute force systems to be able to guess. So, the whole like replace an S with a this and, with a dollar sign and all that crap. Don't do any of that shit. Correct horse battery staple. I don't know if that's the exact order, but that like if you look up those 4 words, you're gonna see that comic. Correct horse battery staple. The point is, more letters, numbers, more variables, if you will. A longer string of these things means that it's harder for an automated system to break it. And it goes into the math, and it's only like a 4 or 5 panel thing. By the way, there's some places where like if you put like they won't even let you use the password that he's created. And I think maybe it's a little Easter egg on some sites. I think Slashdot might have been one of those. I'm not sure. On one. I mean, cheesy, savory seasoning. Boom. There's your 3 words that you can use as a password. I would not recommend that. But that is the nature of what my passwords are. It's that it's 3 or 4 words Like, salt and pepper's here. Salt and pepper is here. You could do that for a lot of websites. Now, some of them won't let you because it's too many or too many characters, and that's something that you have to consider as well. So, like, salt, pepper here if you want, and I would say, in all honesty, do what I do. Put all your passwords in a Google Doc file. I put it in a spreadsheet because let's put it this way: if Google gets hacked, you and everybody else have bigger problems. Now you might be like, well, it's associated with your email password, or whatever. Yeah, sure it is, which is not easy to determine. I've changed it. I will change it again. That's the point of it, so that you do prevent those things. And you don't even have to change the whole password if you don't want to. You know, what if every password you had started with, I don't know, paper plate? Or, hell, even better, paper knife. Like, those two words were the first things of all your passwords, right? And then let's say, excuse me, your email is paper plate or paper knife email. Okay. That's your password for your email. Nobody's gonna guess that. You could throw in another word if you feel like it. You could put like paper knife email 1, but use the actual word 1 instead of the number 1 if you wanted to. Or you could use the 1, and then if you have to put in numbers and special characters and capitalizations, screw doing all the other BS where you have to put it randomly. No, fuck it. Bookend the shit. Put the P, make the P at the very beginning, the capital. Boom. Done. Because a lot of times, especially if you're on a mobile, it'll automatically capitalize the first letter anyway, so it's no big deal. Then, put the special characters and the numbers at the end. Boom. You are done. And if all you're doing is changing effectively one word for each of your websites, but you're keeping, let's say, the paper knife thing. For your email, it's paper knife email, let's just say. And then you're like, for Facebook, you know, maybe you put your own damn name in it. So and I don't use Facebook. I don't even have a Facebook or Instagram account anymore. And this is not my password, even if it was. But like, you could put in like paper knife Justin, and then like !1 for Facebook if you feel like it, right? Like, you do whatever works for your brain, but try to use a system that makes your brain work easier, not harder. So you have to adapt to the bullshit that we've built in this stupid country/world. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because of the events that unfolded yesterday. So I sent them the photo. I sent them proof of income, which is technically not income because it's I have the money. So he said proof of funds. Don't do those things. What I should have just done is just ignored him, reported it, and moved on. But I kept going. So I sent him that information. And then, but I couldn't upload it. So what I did was I went to Imgur and I uploaded it there. I already have an account there. Created a tiny gallery of just the 2 images. And since it wouldn't take the imgur.com because it won't take a lot of addresses, it's like imgur.com, and then here's the remainder, and it should be visible. But then he didn't want to do that for whatever reason, I guess. But then he accepted the request, the booking, which puts a bit of strain on me if things go south, which is what happened. So when he accepted the reservation request, it then allowed me to upload those images. So then I just uploaded them again through um, Airbnb. But the thing that I did immediately after doing that, now I wasn't entirely on my A game, but I was getting there real quick. I keep looking at this or at my face, and it makes me look like I'm looking way out there. And I'm trying to look at the camera, but I just want to look at my stupid pretty face. No. Um, so anyway, I send him those. I send him the images via the Airbnb messaging, and immediately switched over, deleted not only the images but also the actual gallery, because I'm like, well, there's no point in them being up there at that point. And because that's external to the messaging thing, there's no point for them to be there either. And the information that has been provided is now inside Airbnb. So it can be tracked and monitored from Airbnb in case some shit goes down. So, what happened after that? Pretty tasty. So what happens after that? Well, I then get a text message from someone random. And I'm not going to answer them, but I know they're associated. But I'm not going to answer them. So he then tells me to call that person with that phone number. So I go ahead and do that. I talk to him. It's the manager of the building that the unit, the reservation is set at. We have a brief conversation. They seem, they seem to like me. But then a little while later, he then says that it's not available and he wants me to cancel. But then I go to look, and if I try to cancel, I don't get any fucking money. Here's what I've learned since that point. At that point, the host, the person who told me to cancel, would have to refund the money back to me. They get that money via Airbnb. Airbnb ain't the one getting the money. So there's definitive incentive for somebody who knows how to play the game just right to scam people into situations like mine, whereby they get you to do whatever, and then you get stuck with a bill that you don't even get the fucking, rent out of. And that would have been a $2,000 bill. So no, thank you. My concern was, since the last time that I saw, when I did a purchase like that for this place, that was a pending transaction. And it was a pending transaction in my mail, or in my bank account. Well, I don't have $5,000 in there right now, and I don't want to have $5,000 in it right now, because that means I have to pull more money out of the Fidelity account, which I'm going to do at the beginning of the year, because I don't want that to affect my taxes for this year. Just because some shit at the end of the fucking year is happening the way that it is. By the way, now would have been a really good time to buy a car, because they really love trying to sell cars at the end of the year so they can avoid taxes too. Because whatever inventory they have at the beginning of the year, um, they have to count that. So it can affect their following taxes and all that shit. So it's like, what the fuck do I do? I don't have money in my account to book another place. I'm trying not to overload myself tax wise and everything, and just pull out another fight. Because even if I did, this is holiday week. Like, who knows when that money's gonna come in? And so it's like, okay, I've got to figure out what I can do. And since I'm still pretty new to it, I don't know all of the ins and outs. And so he wanted me to cancel it. I gotta fucking cancel that shit. So I go and I check, and and says, okay. So I try to cancel it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna hit a cancel button. I'm gonna see how far this takes me. Pardon me. Do you happen to have any Grey Poupon? Hold on a second. I fucking do. Derailments. You fart, you say, pardon me, then your brain says, hey, here's this old commercial that happened in the 90s. Fuck. So anyway, I tell him, if I do that, then I'm not going to be able to get any money back. And then, of course, then I'm not getting the place either, so that's not going to work. So I'm going through the process. I'm looking at what my options are, and it says the host wants to cancel, and I click on that. Now, there's a button at the bottom. I didn't realize there's a fucking button. It says ask the host to cancel, but I didn't click it because I didn't think it was a button. It felt like it was just kind of a stopgap. Had I done that, I would have just clicked on that fucking thing and it would have been whatever, but I learned more from it. So despite the bullshit that happened from it and me not knowing exactly what I needed to do in that regard, and I'm going to tell you right now, hello, one person who's here, talking about my Airbnb situation whereby somebody basically tried to scam me. And goodbye, that one person. Another person. Hi. Person's name looks Arabic, maybe? I don't know how to pronounce it, that's for sure, but hello. So they wanted me to cancel despite the fact that they had accepted the booking, but then told me a couple hours later that it wasn't available anymore. And if I canceled, I'm losing the money. I ain't gonna do that. So I'm looking for what I can find. I find this option that I didn't really know was an option, and it says ask them. So I'm like, okay, well, I took a screenshot and sent it to them, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. But then nothing happened, and so now I've got to start searching for like what my options are with regards to this, because like I don't even know what to look for. So I'm searching, I'm finding like the community center for it, which like none of this seems to be easy to find on that app or even on their website. So much of this, like most of the questions and type stuff is like, your sort of Q&A things, but I couldn't really find anything without doing more Google searching and stuff, and it would get, I was finally able to get into the community tab to then determine sort of the hub of this information. Then in that, I've got to start looking for the right thing. So it probably took me another 3 hours just to find something that was even remotely akin to it. In the meantime, I'm also opening more tabs on my on my laptop so I can look for like Airbnb Reddit related stuff, and so I see the Airbnb that's basically like for everybody, and then there's the hosts. And so I'm like reading various posts about it and trying to find stuff. So I'm doing my research on this. trying to find something because I can't actually find the fucking thing, even though I already did and I didn't know it. Um, because it's not very transparent. It's kind of a pain in the ass when you have a problem as a guest, especially if you're not even technically in the space. Um, ooh, yeah, I know, right? uh, so I finally find the actual result, but in the process of doing that, I had already sent um, I had found a way because this is not a normal, like, this is not an easy to find option, but I was able to communicate with Airbnb support. And it opens up its own message in the messaging portion of the app. And I followed the little bot that they have and then I put in a description. And so then some hours later, I'm like, I'm frustrated. So, and I feel like I felt like I was at something of a stopping point where I didn't really feel like I could do anything else. And so I'm like, well, screw it. I need to go, you know, play video games and just not really think about this too much. But then, it's always in the background and the phone's over on the side. And so if I do get any messages, I'll know. And then I get one actually, I don't get one for like an hour. So I'm like, please respond. The host hasn't responded once. And so I'm like, well, shit, what the hell do I do? Um, and then I finally get a response closer to like, and I'm sure I could look it up right now, but I'm, doing this. But I want to say it was like close to one almost, it feels like. I don't know. And maybe later than that. But I was playing EverQuest and I finally get a response from the Airbnb support. It's kind of rote, which, because it didn't feel like they read the previous message. And because they were, from another country, like I could tell that there was, a bit of I wasn't saying that you're a bot. I was talking about the bot on Airbnb, but now I think you're a bot. That's exactly what a bot would say. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, so anywho, I'm talking to the actual like support. Like I said, they're from another country. I can tell because their sentence structure is a little off from what I would expect from somebody who's an American. But again, I'm not against people working in other countries doing the jobs that like Americans could do. I'm not the whole like take our jobs. I don't give a shit. If you can do the job, I'm cool. If the language barrier makes it harder, then we have a different problem entirely. It's not, oh my god, foreigners are taking our jobs. I don't give a fuck about that. If the job can't be done right, that's when we have problems. And training can overcome can compensate that. But that is also something that often is problematic when jobs are outsourced to other countries is that the companies, and it's not the people, it's the companies who are at fault. They're the ones who are like, okay, well, we're going to go take advantage of the cheaper labor in another country, but then we're also not going to do anything to make the work efficient because they're trying to just make as much money as they possibly can. And that's where my problem is. I don't give a fuck about foreigners taking jobs. I give a fuck about companies being assholes for the sake of profit because I'm a people over profit person, not a profit over people person. That's a lot of peace. I haven't done my tongue twisters today. I don't give a fuck. So all of that diatribe and derailing was to say that I could tell that there might be a communication issue, but I'm willing to work with it as long as the information is understood. Um, and it got to that point. It felt like there was a lot of delay between communications, which is unfortunate. Um, But then at one point, like they literally just went through the whole thread and looked at the entire message because they have that ability. Um, they canceled it on their end, even though at one point during that communication, I realized I could go through the whole thing and actually hit that button that I didn't know was a button. Um, and it doesn't cancel it. What it does is it effectively says, hey, you have to cancel it. And it creates, and my guess is because of the way programming works, is like it says, the guest wants you to cancel it, you need to cancel it, kind of thing. And so then it's going to cause the host to have to do some kind of response within the app. And that is a better situation than just saying, hey, can I have your word? Because then it creates paper trail. And you want a paper trail when you're dealing with scams. Um, so I'm not home. I'm more frustrated. I was able to try and book another one with somebody. He responded almost immediately. And it was like 2:30 in the morning. But then he hasn't responded since, so that's frustrating. And it looks like a nice place, a good place. It's not too far from. I mean, it's about the same, I would say, distance from a nearby train station as to where this is. Um, so it's not a huge inconvenience or anything. So I just got to figure out. I got to wait for that, and then if it starts getting too close to crunch time, then I'll try to find another place. Um, so that's the situation with that. And I know that my guest here with the name that I can't pronounce got in here about halfway through, but you can always just come back later and watch the rest of it if you'd like. But so the rain seems to have stopped. I don't really have a whole lot planned today. I need to just kind of start sort of focusing on the next steps, start figuring out what needs to be packed, what doesn't need to be packed immediately. So like I can pack up 90% of whatever I've got. And then hopefully tomorrow I can get the place so that I still have this space for a day. I can then effectively start moving in tomorrow to the next place. And then when I have to check out of this place, I just have to clean the place up for the most part. So that's what's going on today. Oh, also, like for the last 3 months, I haven't been able to get any unemployment whatsoever because I I don't need to file a new claim. But then if I try to file a new claim, it won't let me. But if I maintain under the current claim, I can't get anything. I can't certify for benefits. So I'm like, damn catch 22s. It's so frustrating. But it's whatever. Maybe I'll just cancel the old one. But see, the thing is, if you cancel the old one, so I'm gonna see. That might be something I'm gonna have to look into. Oh, also, before I go, a little bit of an update to. Hey, there's a second person. Oh my God, there's two people, and I'm almost done. Um, so with regards to the driving school, the driving test. Now there's one person, so whatever. Driving test. They said that my preferred driving instructor wasn't going to be available until the 13th. So I'm like, well, I would like to try to get it as soon as possible of next week. Then they were like, we're booked up until the 11th or the 12th. It was one of those 2 dates. I'm like, well, okay, it's only 1 or 2 days off. Shit. I'm like, well, that settles that. So I'm like, well, let's go ahead and go with the 13th with the driver, the instructor that I wanted, which sucks because, then that means who knows when the hell the driver's license is going to show up. And then I'm not going to have time to try to, find a car. So I'm thinking that when I'm done with whatever the next place is, um, I'm just going to kind of take some time out of the state. Because either way, that's what I'm going to do one way or another, it seems. Unless I just get lucky. Like even my friend who hit me up about doing some potential voice work, he hasn't responded to my messages about. Well, I'm probably not likely to be the best option. I don't know. We'll see. But still a lot of balls in the air, and most of them are not in my favor anyway. So have fun.